We make decisions every day. These decisions, big or small, shape our lives. From choosing what to eat to making career choices, our decisions determine our present and future. Understanding how we make these decisions is crucial for a fulfilling life. However, our decision-making process is not always perfect. We are susceptible to biases that can lead to irrational choices. These biases, known as cognitive biases, are systematic errors in thinking that arise from the way our brains process information. These biases can lead us to make decisions that are not in our best interest. We may misjudge risks, overestimate our abilities, or fall prey to persuasive marketing tactics. By understanding these biases, we can make more informed and rational decisions. In this essay, we will explore some common cognitive biases and their impact on our everyday lives. By recognizing these biases, we can learn to mitigate their influence and make better decisions. Cognitive biases are mental shortcuts our brains use to simplify complex information and make quick decisions. While these shortcuts can be helpful in some situations, they can also lead to systematic errors in thinking. These errors can affect our judgments, beliefs, and ultimately our decisions. Imagine you are walking home alone at night. You hear a noise in the bushes and immediately assume it's a dangerous animal. This is an example of a cognitive bias called the availability heuristic. Your brain relies on the most readily available information, which in this case is your fear of the dark and potential dangers. Cognitive biases are often unconscious, meaning we are unaware of their influence on our thinking. This makes them particularly difficult to identify and overcome. However, by becoming aware of these biases, we can start to recognize their patterns and develop strategies to mitigate their impact. The availability heuristic is a cognitive bias that refers to our tendency to overestimate the likelihood of events that are easily recalled. This means that events that are vivid, recent, or emotionally charged tend to have a greater influence on our judgments and decisions. For example, after watching a news report about a plane crash, you might be more likely to overestimate the likelihood of dying in a plane crash yourself. This is because the vivid images and emotional impact of the news report make it easier for you to recall and therefore overestimate the probability of such an event. The availability heuristic can also influence our perceptions of risk. For instance, if you have recently experienced a burglary, you might be more likely to overestimate the likelihood of being burglarized again, even if statistically the risk remains low. The framing effect demonstrates how the way information is presented or framed can significantly influence our choices, even if the underlying options are the same. This bias highlights the power of words and how they can shape our perceptions of a situation. Consider a scenario where you are presented with two options for a medical treatment. Option A is framed positively, stating that it has a 70% survival rate. Option B, on the other hand, is framed negatively, highlighting a 30% mortality rate. While both options convey the same information, studies show that people are more likely to choose option A due to its positive framing. The framing effect is often exploited in marketing and advertising. For instance, a product advertised as being 90% fat-free sounds more appealing than one labeled as containing 10% fat, even though both convey the same information. Section 5. Confirmation bias, seeking information we agree with. Confirmation bias is our tendency to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs and to disregard or downplay information that contradicts them. This bias can lead us to hold on to our beliefs even when presented with contrary evidence. Imagine you are researching a controversial topic. You are more likely to click on articles and websites that align with your pre-existing views on the subject. This selective exposure to information reinforces your existing beliefs, making it difficult to objectively evaluate opposing viewpoints. Confirmation bias can have significant consequences, especially in areas like politics and social issues. It can lead to polarized views and make it challenging to engage in constructive dialogue with those who hold different opinions. Section 6. Anchoring bias, the power of first impressions. Anchoring bias describes our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even if it is irrelevant or arbitrary. This initial information acts as an anchor that influences our subsequent judgments and estimates. For example, in a negotiation, the first price offered often serves as an anchor. Even if the initial offer is far from the actual value, it can influence the counteroffers and final agreement. The anchoring bias explains why it is often advantageous to make the first offer in a negotiation. Anchoring bias can also affect our purchasing decisions. For instance, seeing a high price tag on a luxury item can anchor our perception of its value, making subsequent discounts seem more appealing even if the final price is still inflated. Section 7. The halo effect. Judging by first impressions. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person, company, or product influences our evaluations of their specific traits. In essence, we tend to generalize from one positive characteristic to form a positive overall impression. For example, if you find someone physically attractive, you might also perceive them as being more intelligent, trustworthy, and competent. This positive halo created by their physical appearance spills over to influence your judgments of their other qualities. The halo effect is often exploited in marketing and branding. For instance, celebrity endorsements capitalize on the positive associations people have with famous individuals to enhance the perceived value of a product or service. Section 8. Loss aversion, our fear of losing out. Loss aversion is the tendency for individuals to feel the pain of a loss more strongly than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. This means we are more motivated to avoid losses than to acquire gains. Imagine you are offered a gamble where you have a 50% chance of winning $100 and a 50% chance of losing $100. Despite the expected value of the gamble being zero, most people would avoid taking this risk due to their aversion to the potential loss. Loss aversion can influence our financial decisions, making us more risk-averse when it comes to investments. It can also lead us to hold on to losing investments for too long, hoping to avoid realizing the loss. Section 9. The sunk cost fallacy. Throwing good money after bad. The sunk cost fallacy refers to our tendency to continue investing in something based on the amount of time, money, or effort we have already invested, even if it is no longer in our best interest. We fall prey to this fallacy because we are reluctant to admit that our past investments were a waste. Imagine you have invested a significant amount of money and time into a project. However, the project is not progressing as expected and is likely to fail. The sunk cost fallacy might lead you to continue investing in the project, hoping to salvage something from your initial investment, even if it means throwing good money after bad. The sunk cost fallacy can be applied to various aspects of life, from relationships to business decisions. Recognizing this fallacy can help us make more rational decisions about when to cut our losses and move on. Section 10. Overcoming cognitive biases. While cognitive biases are inherent to our thinking processes, we are not powerless against them. By becoming aware of these biases and understanding how they influence our judgments and decisions, we can take steps to mitigate their impact. One effective strategy is to slow down our decision-making process. Taking the time to carefully consider all available information, challenge our assumptions, and seek out diverse perspectives can help us make more rational choices. Another approach is to use external aids and tools to support our decision-making. Checklists, algorithms, and decision-making frameworks can help us structure our thinking, minimize the influence of biases, and improve the quality of our decisions. Section 11. Conclusion: making better decisions. Cognitive biases are an inherent part of the human experience. While they can lead to errors in judgment and decision-making, understanding these biases empowers us to make more informed and rational choices. By recognizing the patterns of these biases, we can develop strategies to mitigate their influence and improve the quality of our decisions in all aspects of life, from personal relationships to professional endeavors. Awareness of cognitive biases is the first step towards becoming better decision makers. By acknowledging our inherent biases, we can strive for greater objectivity, rationality, and ultimately make choices that lead to a more fulfilling and successful life.